Each quarter, you will be responsible for completing a 9 weeks reading project. This is an independent reading assessment contract, IRA, as it's called, to help you kind of figure out what you need to do in order to get a particular grade. In order to get an A, I have set some lofty goals. They're not impossible. They look like they could be difficult, but if you are willing to read, if you are willing to show perseverance and not procrastinate and read a little bit every day, it is really not a difficult thing to accomplish. Okay, but in order to get an A, these things need to be fulfilled. You need to read at least 3 books that add up to 1,000 pages or more. You have to do 1 written response for each book, but the minimum number of written responses is 6. So sometimes you're going to have to do 2 things per book. Okay, so let me explain these really quick because these are very similar for every grade level. A discussion post is a post that I will put on my big campus, and it might be a letter. You can write like a letter to the author where you ask the author questions. It could be a book recommendation or review, but you will post a discussion and on my big campus. Now, a log can be done, but you must determine that you're going to complete the log before you start reading the book. So the biggest thing is you need to look at your book. You need to, determine how long is it. Are you going to need to do more than 2 projects? If so, I would strongly encourage you to complete the log as you're reading. It defeats the purpose if you're going to read the book and then go back and try to recreate a log. So if that's how you normally do logs, then don't bother doing a log because I don't want you to do it that way. You could also complete a personal response sheet, and I will attach a copy of what that looks like in the resources section. Another thing you could do is a blog. If you like to write and you're reading, some big books, you could complete at least 1 blog, and you have to have at least 3 blog posts for that 1 book. So you would divide your book into at least 3 parts. If you would do 6 posts for the 1 book, that would be fine too. Because remember, the more that you do, the better of a chance that you will have to get an A. So notice the number minimum. That means you have to have at least 6, but if you have more, that's totally okay. So if you want to do a blog, talk to me. I'll explain how it works, but 1 blog counts for 3 responses. So if you did 2 blogs, that is going to at least meet your minimum requirement of written responses. But that doesn't mean that if you read another book, you might have to do a personal response sheet or something with it, but that really doesn't take very long. And then if you look at the projects, you need to pick 2 projects. This is separate than the written responses. These are totally different things. So you have to do the written responses and you have to do projects. Now, you can do 2 of the same. I do not care. I strongly encourage you to do book clubs. Kids that have done book clubs for me in the past have loved them. They get to read a book with friends. They meet in the library or in my room during lunch. It holds you hold each other accountable, and it's really an easy way to get one of your projects completed. And if you like to write, you could do an alternate ending or a beginning of a sequel in the next book in a series that hasn't been written yet. You could do a movie trailer or act out one of the scenes, and the key here is if you select a group of kids that have all read the same book in the same quarter, they can also get credit for the movie trailer. So a really great idea would be, you and a group of friends pick a book, you do a book club, and then maybe you guys create a movie trailer, and then you've got both of your projects out of the way. And you don't have to do a project for each book, okay? Some of you will, but you don't have to. And so that's important. You have to do a written response for each book you read, but you don't have to do more than 2 projects unless you want to. The quality level is really important. Just because these 2 things, or 3 things I should say, are met, it has to show A level quality. And that means it has to be exceptional. It has to show a true depth of understanding of what you've read, originality in your thought processes, thoroughness, attention to detail, neat, and it just has to look like you spent some time on it. Something that you whip together during read and feed isn't going to cut it. And I don't allow for posters. They don't show high-level thinking. I don't allow for posters to be considered a project. So if you go to my room, you'll see I have a whole bunch of examples of projects on display. And if you want an A, your project needs to match up to that level. And in order to show high-level thinking in a book club, there are things that you guys will need to do as a group, and I'll explain that later to you. Okay? So now the difference between an A and all of these other grades are basically reading level. In order to get a B, you still have to read 750 pages. But the minimum number of written responses is 4. And you only have to do 1 project. Okay? But it still has to show a pretty high level of quality. Now, an average grade, you have to read at least 500 pages. You have to complete at least 3 of the following. And then you still have to do 1 project. Okay, it needs to be of average quality. It still needs to look like an 8th grader completed it. And then what to do to get a D and what not to do to get a 0. I hope that I don't have to give any D's or F's on this assignment, but I do know that some of you struggle with either work ethic or you just struggle with getting everything read. In order to at least get a passing grade, you have to read at least 300 pages, complete 2 of the following, and you don't need any projects, but your reading must be documented by me or a resource teacher. I have to see proof. Basically, the projects and the written responses are proof that you actually are reading what you're telling me that you're reading, and you're not just, trying to get out of it without doing the work. And then I always say what to do to not get a 0, because you guys, a 59% is an F, okay? But it's still 59% of the points. And if you just don't turn anything in, that is 0% of the points. And it's really important that you at least turn something in to get some credit, because a 0 is going to drop your letter grade at least 2 letter grades. But getting a passing grade for some of you will help you actually get a passing grade in my class. But even if you get a 59%, at least it's not going to kill your grade in my class as long as you're already sitting at a D, a C or a D to begin with. Okay? And a minimum of 1 book, minimum of 150 pages, I should say. You need to complete at least 1 written response to it and no projects. So this is certainly doable. I would like everyone to at least try to start at the C range and just keep working, and as you complete the assignments, you can get to that B or even A range. But the key here is that you don't wait until the last minute to complete these projects. Students, after you have listened to my explanation of the IRA contract, if you have any questions, I would like you to go to the discussion posts. There's a discussion post in there, that says questions for Mrs. Beery, and please post your question or message me if you need to. Okay? Good luck.